أيا طالب العلم قم لا تنم فإن الزمان أيا طالب العلم قم لا تنم فإن الزمان انقضى وانصرم فكن ما حييت ضنينا به فظنك
Said, how did the Quraysh, how did they prevent the dawah of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? So, after we said that, what Abu Lahab did, because Abu Lahab is a Quraysh also, that one can be counted as one, like the way he caused the Prophet and then he chose against the Prophet. This is going to instigate us because Abu Lahab is actually Prophet's uncle. If he's leading discord, others are going to have that audacity to do something like that against the Prophet also. We understand this. You're outside and then someone wants to discipline you. Then it's now your family, it's now people that are very close to you that are attempting discipline you. You're giving room for others to do as they please with them. Now, before we go into this, we must understand something, as we've said, that the Quraysh, what we can, Jahiliyyah rather, Jahiliyyah, it has high negative, but it has is very positive also. In this sense, Jahiliyyah can be compared to the gang mentality that we have around now. When we say gang mentality, we know what gang mentality is. When gang do their things, gang, like cult mentality. I don't know if you get that is what I mean by gang. The gang, they might be doing something that is bad to the public, but when it comes to their own, they know how to treat their own. If you belong to a particular gang, you cannot, another person from another gang cannot maltreat you. If you commit any offense, you have to be reported to the leader of where you belong, and then it's the leader that's going to that area. You know how it works. This is the same mentality that the Quraysh they have, and the Jahiliyyah, that's the same mentality of Jahiliyyah. So Quraysh know fully that if anyone is going to stand against Prophet Muhammad, then it's definitely going to be someone from his immediate family, because now it is intra. The dawah is still within Quraysh now. So we said we made explanation about this when the Battle of Fijar came on, and then we explained some things. Abu Talib, one that took over Abdul Muttalib. The story is still clear now. It is not Kodaru. So Abu Talib, the son of Abdul Muttalib, was the one that took over. So Abu Talib is the head of Banu Hashim. Now, it has every tribe within Quraysh, they have their own head also. So, meaning that if Abu Talib, let's say Abu Talib is the number one of Banu Hashim, in Banu Makhzum, there's another number one there. In Banu Ali, there's another number one there. So, this is how it works. And the famous ones that we must know is Banu Makhzum, and Banu Adi. They are the one that compete on Banu Hashim rather. So Banu Hashim and Banu Makhzum, they talk to some age and all the one comes mostly. So Banu Makhzum asked his leader to be Al-Walid al-Mughira, the father of Khalid ibn Walid, for us to be able to relate well. And it is from this tribe, like the second in command is someone that we know, Abu Jahl. So Abu Jahl is this tribe also. So we have other tribes, and then when I make reference to them, I just want us to understand what we are explaining now. So now they reached out. The first thing that they did was that they reached out to Abu Talib, and Abu Talib is the leader. So they reached out to Abu Talib, and then they said, Abu Talib, you have to caution your son. We know that Prophet Muhammad is in the position of his son to Abu Talib now. So you have to caution him. They reached out to him. They cajoled him. They did everything they could for Abu Talib to caution Prophet Muhammad to curb the way he's preaching his dawah, because they saw the dawah. They even accused Prophet Muhammad of insulting their lords, of insulting their idols, rather, of insulting their idols, because they said if you are preaching something that is against our way of worship, then you are insulting our forefathers, because they said this is the mentality of our forefathers. Saying that our forefathers were foolish. You know, the way we bring out stories from even what Prophet did not say against them, they even put it to action against him. And this is how life works. When you are facing people and someone is preaching something good for you, and you want to go against the person, you just pick a line from what the person said, and then you start doing it. This is a wrong way of living life, and we all should understand this better. So they firstly accused Prophet Muhammad of cursing their idols, and then they told Abu Talib that he should caution Prophet Muhammad that he should stop him. So Prophet Abu Talib actually responded because of Muhammad being the father figure. Like, what are you saying? Allow him to do his own. But after a while, they keep coming and they keep coming. They keep pressurizing Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They even requested that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that Abu Talib should hand over the Prophet to them, and that can be done. When a leader says, "Okay, I am no more," is like it does not belong to us again. We understand this thing. Once the ticket, the Prophet Muhammad ticket is torn like by the leader, like the Prophet is no more us, then other tribes can do anything that they want with the Prophet, with Prophet. But Abu Talib has refused, like, this is the son of my brother. We know the connection and the relationship between Abu Talib and Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So it was at a point in time that the pressure became very high for Abu Talib, till Abu Talib was forced to go to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and try to speak to him that, oh son of Abdullah, you know, yeah, like, you must have approached him in a gentle way, like, stop putting me in a tight corner. These people are pressurizing me. Stop giving yourself problem. He tried to cajole the prophet and then try to advise him that this thing you are preaching, the people do not like it, and then you have to stop it now. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam responded, and then we are all familiar with the response that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave to him. Prophet said, if the sun is placed on my right hand and the moon is placed on my left hand, I won't give up this that I'm doing. So that's is that what figure of speech is that? Subhanallah. So it's just help us out. So Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is trying to tell them that this is completely impossible for me to do. So Abu Talib, being in the father position of Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, when he saw this zeal in Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he said that my prophet is not willing to give up anything. He said, "Don't worry, do as you please. I'm going to support you." And we all know that Abu Talib is supported the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam till he died. And because he was alive, the Quraysh could not do anything physically to harm the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. They could only harm people who were weak, and then we're going to be getting this clearer. Now, before we have to talk about the last thing that the Quraysh they did. Though this happened towards the end, but this is the best time to bring it up because we are mentioning Abu Talib now. So the Quraysh they did something, and for most of us, we might not be familiar with it, or we must have not heard of it before. Now, the Quraysh they told Abu Talib one thing that it is completely unheard of. They told him that, okay, this is what we know, this is what we are going to do. We are going to make a swap. And when we say a swap, they wanted to swap someone with Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Who is the person that they wanted to swap Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam with? I'm going to question us with this thing, definitely. The Quraysh, they attempted to swap Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam with Umar ibn Walid ibn al-Mughira. Umar ibn al-Walid ibn al-Mughira is that person that the Quraysh attempted to swap Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam with. What do they mean by swap? I said the mentality is a gang mentality. So what they are doing now is that they are proposing to Abu Talib that, okay, we know that is your son. We are going to give you someone from us who is noble also. They are trying to make Umar like he is noble like the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is to you. So we give you in exchange, like we'll make a swap. You just give us Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, lift that ticket off him. Tell us he's no more your family. We are going to give you Umar. Take Umar in his place. Give us Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Abu Talib became angry. And then he said, what a foolish bargain. What are you saying? So I'm going to give you my own son so you can kill him, and then you are going to give me your own so I can start feeding him. Like, who does business deal like this? So you can see that after all this prayer, upon that Abu Talib is a mushrik, is a pagan. He supported the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He stood with him, and then he did all he did for all he could do for Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It was at this time when Quraysh they made that move against Abu Talib, that Abu Talib became open, and then he told them openly that I am supporting Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He told Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to do as he pleased. That he supported Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, Abu Talib stood against the Quraysh, and then he told them that I am going to support Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and there's nothing you all can do to it. So at this time they knew that they are in big trouble against Abu Talib. Sorry, if I said Abdul Muttalib, Abu Talib, against Abu Talib. So they know that Abu Talib is actually supporting it, and this is why the persecution that they did to the Muslims could not affect the Prophet physically at the beginning of Dawah, because they know that it belongs to the tribe of Banu Hashim, and Banu Hashim is the most noble among them. Now we should make a point. Upon all this, with the support that Abu Talib that he did for Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, we still know that he died a pagan. And Abu Talib, even at the point of his death, we all know this thing. Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was pushing to him, pushing to him, just say this kalima, just say this kalima, and I will be able to hug you in front of Allah. Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was telling Abu Talib that just say this kalima of la ilaha illallah that I'm telling you, and then you, because Prophet Muhammad loved Abu Talib so much, and then we know that Abu Talib loved him as a son also. So the fatherly love that Prophet Muhammad could have, he had it for Abu Talib, and then he persuaded Abu Talib, and Abu Talib was about saying the shahada. That's before Abu Lahab. I can't even remember who is Abu Lahab or Abu Chal. The two, they keep coming up, they keep confusing. So it was when one of them told Abu Talib that, are you going to give up the religion of your father? So, and it was this pride that they have in this father, in my religion of my father, my father could not be foolish, so you cannot be telling me that what my father was doing is. So that mentality, that understanding that made Abu Talib not to accept Islam. We all know that all of this is well planned by Allah, and all is happening. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continue to make us to be among those who is going to have his good plan also. Now, what else did the Quraysh do to prevent the dawah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? It is that they tried to ban or to prevent the recitation of Quran being heard by others. Now, the Quran on its own, maybe when we have the opportunity again to talk about, we're going to talk about how miraculous the Quran is for them. Hearing the Quran alone, they knew that this is not a normal speech for everyone, and we are going to get there. Maybe when we get to when we mention Al-Walid ibn al-Mughira, we are going to see that the Quraysh, they felt the effect of Quran, that this is not from someone, and then we will get there inshallah in the next class. So the Quran was prevented because they saw that while some were listening to the Quran alone is causing some people to move away from paganism and then to consider becoming a Muslim. So what they will do is that whenever Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is reciting the Quran in front of Kaaba, they start raising their voices in this manner. You don't listen, just to prevent us from hearing the Quran. And it was narrated by Ibn Abbas that it was so difficult that if you want to hear the Quran, then you have to pretend as if, you know how it happens now, where you're in a crowd and then you want to listen to something else. You have to focus on that noise just to listen to what is being said. So Ibn Abbas narrated it this way, that this is how difficult it was for them to listen to the Quran. And then all this happened for some times, and so until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed there's this verse that we are all familiar with. We used to read it in Al-Masra then. That's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that the prophet should not be reciting at the top of his voice, will he be reciting the Quran very, very low, that he should recite moderately. I can't remember now, so sorry about that. So now, that thing that we need to do in this stage, when the Quraysh, they tried to prevent the Quran from being recited in public. Now we should know that the Quran recitation in public was not by Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. No other Sahabas had the audacity then to recite the Quran publicly. So when they were in Daarul Arqam, and Daarul Arqam is the first house, have we mentioned this before? Is the first house that was built, the secret house that Prophet Muhammad, the Muslims, they used to gather to meet the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to learn their religion. So it was one day they were in Daarul Arqam. The Sahabas, they were very, very few. they were talking about why God own this Mecca, why that we cannot recite our Quran outwardly. So he made it, and then someone, I guess we're all familiar with this, so but it is not a live session like that. So now let's just see. So the challenge themselves, like, who is going to be the first person to recite the Quran outside? And then one of the Sahaba that we mentioned last week that we explained, while we were explaining, we said that Prophet Muhammad said that anyone who wants to recite the Quran freshly as it was revealed should recite in the way that Sahaba is reciting the Quran. That's what Prophet Muhammad said about him, and that is Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. So we know Abdullah ibn Mas'ud about this Sahaba, and then we do not have at least some primary information about them. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud is the one known for reciting the Quran the way it is recited by the angel to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Abdullah ibn Mas'ud was the first person, and he had that honor of the first Sahaba to recite the Quran publicly. Now what happened? He took up the challenge, and then he said, "I'm going to recite the Quran publicly." Now we should know one thing before we go into what happened to him when he recited the Quran publicly. We said last week that Abdullah ibn Mas'ud was a slave, Arab slave, but not a Qurayshi. He's not a Qurayshi. So if he's doing anything, anybody can beat him up. Anything can happen to him. Unlike if Abu Bakr or Zubayr had done it, nobody could do anything to them because they would just keep reporting them to their leaders, their tribal leaders. Your face is disturbing us. You know that they could not attack physically, because any attack that you make on anyone physically, the whole tribe is going to come at you, and that is the mentality of by now we all should get it. So now, when Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, and when he went to the Kaaba to recite the Quran, he started reciting Suratul Rahman, Ar-Rahman, Allama al-Quran, Khalaqal Insan. So that he started reciting while the recitation was catching some people. Like, wow, what is this man reciting? Some came up. Well, it was said that he's yet to complete two pages before the Quraysh came at him, and then they beat him up. They beat him up that he fell down, and he was okay. Now, sorry. So now we said so now, sorry, I just got distracted. I'm very sorry about that. So we said that he was beaten up, like when something we can say that beaten to stupor. I'm not narrating in form. I just want us to get that image right. So he was beaten in this form that other Sahabas had to go and carry him. And then Sahabas, they are not like us. Wallahi, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continue to be pleased with them. If it is someone like me and you that are on the call, hey, you know what he said when he said the beating was so pleasing to me that I even want to do it. Like I even want to like when you get beaten up and then you are narrating it as this is the best beating of my life. Like, who does that? Like, these are Sahabas of Prophet Muhammad. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continue to be pleased with them. So he said, I'm even willing to go the second day until the Sahaba say, no, I'm going to kill you for us, so we could understand. And that's what and where we are going to stop today, because we have some discussion that we're going to say. But I have another short story to narrate with us, because these are just the best time to chip in all these things. So if we've heard them before, we can align them. Now, we said Abu Jahl. We are yet to get to him actually, and then we'll try and give some details about him. I wanted to talk about Mut'im ibn Hadi, but maybe whenever we come across him, we are going to talk about him definitely one time when the boycott happened. So Mut'im ibn Hadi I wanted to make an example of him with Abu Talib, because there were some pagans. They were good people. He used to tell us that not all non-Muslims are bad. Some have good intentions. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continue to help us. So there was this story on how interesting the recitation of Quran was for Quraysh generally. You know, the Quraysh, they come out open to prevent the recitation of Quran, to prosecute the Prophet, to lambast, to abuse, to even talk down on the prophet. So they do this, but they know that the message that the prophet is coming up with is not a divine, like it's not a message. They may not accept that as a divine message, but they know that this is not an ordinary message coming from human, because they know that Prophet Muhammad grew among us, and we know the best poet, the best person to recite poem. We know the best people to talk among us. So what they do, I'm going to mention three names. Abu Sufyan, we are all familiar with Abu Sufyan. Though Abu Sufyan is not like others, he later accepted Islam, but at this point in time, he was not a Muslim, and a lot happened because of Abu Sufyan. In fact, Abu Sufyan is a case study throughout the Surah. He keep coming up till so Abu Sufyan, Al-Akhnas, Al-Akhnas. There's this um, famous pagan. Then it was Al-Akhnas, Abu Sufyan, and Abu Jahl. So the three of them, one day, they woke up in their sleep. They must have planned it, not together, but differently. And then they said, we are preventing the Prophet Muhammad from reciting the Quran. How are we going to, like, they wanted to listen to that message. You know that your mind is going to be there, that affect but they do not want others to listen. So whenever the prophet is praying, he's praying is tahajjud, and we know how Makkah is now, they could hear whatever he's saying from behind the wall. So they sneak to tahajjud. You know, when people go against you, they sneak in the midnight to listen to what you are reciting. So the three of them, they sneak in to listen to Muhammad recitation. Now the words individually, they did not plan it together. It was when Prophet ﷺ stopped the recitation, and then it was, it would be definitely time for Fajr then. So it was almost in the morning that the two of them, they ran away. Like the Prophet ﷺ has stopped the recitation of the Quran. So they were running away, and then they bumped into each other like, what are we doing here? So the three of them, the first time they pretended as if they are not going there to listen. Like so one long, it is something that is great. We need to listen to it. That's the mindset. So the first time it happened, they bumped into each other. The second time it happened, the second day, they bumped into each other. And then the third time, they bumped into each other. And then that's when they now messed. They now said, there's no point in hiding. If the Quraysh is to catch us that we are doing this, then we are in big trouble. Then they now made a vow that we are not going to do this thing again. They made a vow, meaning that the Quran was so enticing to them. They knew that this particular message coming is not an ordinary message. So they go in the midnight to listen, and then when they bumped into each other for the third time, they said, we are not going to do that again. So they reminded themselves. And then what now happened from this? Two things happened. Al-Ahnas, the third one, went to Abu Sufyan one day, and he said, what you heard from prophets, what's your own view about it? Like, he's trying to, the recitation of Quran that he heard is causing a doubt on him. So he's like, what do you think about what you heard from prophet? What you heard from prophet? So Abu Sufyan, he remarks about the Quran. He said, what is reciting? Actually, I could understand some and I could not understand some. But he's not saying that this is a lie. Like, he knew that this is beyond what is expected of someone that is being raised among them. Like, this is definitely from another superpower. So he could understand that. But he made that remark, and that remark is ambiguous. Like, he's not coming out open that this is actually, because now he's a top pick, like this mentality of station Anabi. So when he went to him, so Al-Akhnas is like, well, no problem. And you see that Al-Akhnas is trying to look for someone to back of from prophets by, like, what he's actually saying is heavy on us, and we could feel it. So when Al-Akhnas went to Abu Jahl, and this is where we're going to understand what Abu Jahl's mentality is. Abu Jahl is that person that Prophet Muhammad called the Fir'aun of my ummah. We should know this, and then we are going to explain how he later become. Because when we see the atrocities that he committed, we are going to see that he is indeed the Fir'aun of this ummah. So Fir'aun, we know who Fir'aun is now, the one that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala caused in the Quran. So Prophet Muhammad said, Abu Jahl is the Fir'aun of my ummah. So when Al-Akhnas, when he went to Abu Jahl, what did Abu Jahl said? Abu Jahl did not even praise the Quran. And we are going to get that it's pride that is affecting all these people. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala remove pride from our life. So he said, we and Banu Hashim, Banu Hashim, meaning that the Prophet Muhammad is from Banu Hashim. And I am from Banu Makhzum. Yeah, Banu Makhzum. It's not that he's saying that. I'm trying to make the clarification. Like Abu Jahl is from Banu Makhzum, and he's saying Banu Hashim. We and Banu Hashim, we are the top two tribes in this place. That's the response they give to Al Akhnas. We are the top two tribes in this place. We compete in everything. Banu Hashim, they give food to pilgrims to those that come to Hajj. We give food also. They give water. We give water. They do this. We do this. Like he's making comparison that we and Banu Hashim, we are the top two tribe in, and then we know this competition now. Once you have gang mentality, they keep competing and competing and competing. They compete for honor. They compete for everything. They compete for everything. Even the bad thing, they compete for it. We know what gang mentality is that àwọn olówó tí wọ́n wúlò wọn dáadáa ṣàlùwọ́ àwọn dáadáa jẹ́ kó pé méjì jẹ́ kẹ́ni kan drop 500,000 another person need drop 500,000 no my first you know how they do it. So now Abu Jahl, he now said we compete in everything that we almost became two horses racing very, very close to each other, meaning that we and Banu Abdul Manaf, we are very, very close in everything. Now that they are claiming that they have a prophet, how are we going to compete with that? You can see, like, he's trying to say that how will Banu Abdul Manaf, he's not even saying it as prophet alone. Like, how will Banu Abdul Manaf be saying that have a prophet? What are we going to, meaning that he recognized the effect of Quran, like this is actually coming from a divine will, but that pride of what is going to happen to my tribe? Equivalent star náà fẹ́ tẹ́ pé ṣáà náà ní maybe to jobeni. So we could not have something that we cannot claim divine. Like he's even saying that he now claim to have something that is even receiving revelation from Allah. How are we to compete with that? So this is the understanding that I want us to have about how the way the instigation, what led to the instigation or the persecution and the response that the Quraysh they gave to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's dawah, and this is just the first part of it. I hope to round up the next class, inshallah. We are going to be coming up with some also, and we're going to be introducing them as the like Madabika Stanky. So we are going to introduce them to us, and then the third time we are going to be rounding up what Quraysh did, the way they punished the Bilal, the punishment they did for Bilal, the boycott, the travel, the journey to Abyssinia and the like. So we are going to be doing all this thing, and it might take two, 3 or 4 classes before we rounded up the way the Quraysh responded to the message. Now, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I want to believe we have gained something to the